Welcome to JoF TV. I'm Scylla, and with me is Chuck. Hi, Chuck.
Hi.
So, in our last episode, we paid tribute to Robin Williams, who recently passed away. And something that has come out of this is a focus on depression, as he did commit suicide, and it suggested that it was because of a long-standing battle with depression.
Right.
While his death is tragic, I do hope that some good can come of it in raising awareness about depression. It is a disease, and it has a stigma that I think a lot of people have misconceptions about what depression actually is. It's not a matter of you're just sad and can't get over it. True depression is a chemical imbalance. Something in your body is not functioning properly, just as if you had diabetes or cancer or any other physical illness. Depression is an illness that can have physical effects as well as emotional. I've always been open. I myself suffer from depression. As long as I'm medicated, I'm fine. And you've seen me off my medication. It's not a good thing.
No.
There's been a couple of times in my life I've come very close to committing suicide myself. You saved me one of those times. Mm-hmm. And it's not about being weak or trying to take the easy way out. When you're in that mindset, the depression has tricked your mind so much that you really, truly feel a sense of helplessness, hopelessness. You don't see a future. You don't see anything good coming. You don't have the rational thought process to process that things will get better and that this too shall pass. You're not capable of it, because the chemical imbalance has thrown that part of your thought process off.
Right.
It drives me crazy to no end when people say that somebody that commits suicide is a coward or weak or needed to get over it. Because if you're suffering from depression and you commit suicide, it's no different than somebody that has cancer dying of cancer. Yes, it's a self-inflicted death, but they're not in their right minds. It's the disease talking.
Right.
And unfortunately, it sounds like, as more facts are coming in, that that's what happened with Robin Williams. And it's starting to make people go, well, if someone like this committed suicide and was depressed, maybe there's more to this illness. And people are looking at it in a new way, which is a good thing. It's very unfortunate it took something like this to make that happen.
Right. Yeah, and like much like you, I also have been having to fight depression my entire adult life. I have been mostly successful with keeping it at bay. I tried to commit suicide about 10 years ago. Wait, it's 12 years ago. And luckily had a friend who was able to prevent it and got me the help I needed at the time that I needed it. I've been on and off medication over the years. I'm currently off. I'm not currently taking any medication. It's a decision that my doctor and I agreed to together. And I'm doing okay.
And there are, like with any other disease, there are different types of depression.
Absolutely.
Some people need intermittent medication. Some people, once they're aware of it, are able to make themselves function without medication. Every time I've tried to go off medication, I don't do so well.
Right.
I'm one of those that will probably have to be on some kind of medication for the rest of my life, and my body does build a resistance, and it needs to be altered from time to time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's a battle I'm going to probably deal with for the rest of my life, is trying to keep my medication balanced.
Right.
It's like with anything else. Everybody responds differently and handles it in a different way, but it is a very serious illness.
It absolutely is. And chances are, whether you know it or not, you know someone in your life that is battling this illness, whether it's you yourself or a loved one, a relative, a coworker, someone that is in your life every single day is battling depression in their way. And it's like you said, I hope that if anything good comes of the death of Robin Williams, it's that people open their eyes a little more and go, okay, let's take this disease seriously and treat it for what it is, which is a disease. I'm every bit as angry and mortified at people who are so callous as to suggest that depression is nothing more than someone needing to get over being bummed out. It's not the same thing.
One of the recent comments to come to light that infuriated me was Gene Simmons recently, which has actually resulted in several radio stations banning Kiss music. He made a comment that depressed people should just go kill themselves.
Shame on you, Gene Simmons. That's, yeah.
And he has a basically get over it attitude. If that's the way you're going to act, I'm going to be the person at the bottom of the building telling you to jump. That's indirect quote.
That's terrible. You know, and he's not the only person. I've seen, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but I've seen several truly heartless posts on Facebook, Twitter, the various social media outlets, in light of the passing of Robin. You know, just completely ridiculous statements in a similar vein, and people that just don't get it, and there have been some high profile ones. Gene Simmons is one. Shepard Smith or whatever his name was on Fox News recently had to make a public apology for calling Robin Williams a coward. And then there were the internet trolls that tormented Zelda Williams so much she left social media, saying she caused her father to do this, or sending her photoshopped pictures of a suicide photoshopped to look like her father. Truly inhuman things that are unforgivable. Yeah, it's just where do these people come from? Who raised them? What's wrong with these people? It goes beyond cruelty. Yeah, and I mean, would you treat a cancer patient this way? No, God, I would hope not. I mean, if we were talking about any other disease, I don't think we'd be seeing the same kind of hate. That's the only word for it. Yeah, no, that's absolutely the best word for it. That's all it is. It's just pure. It's pure hatred and ignorance, and it shocks me, and it shouldn't, because let's face it. I'm 37 years old. I've been looking at stuff on the internet for going on 20 years now, or more, and it shouldn't shock me anymore. But every time something like that happens, it does. It shocks me. Because you don't want to believe humanity can be so terrible. Right. And it's truly terrible. And there's not a lot of humanity out there. A lot of people were criticizing the level of detail the police released about Robin Williams' death, as far as how his body was found and whatnot. I think that it was a good thing for the public to know, to raise awareness, if nothing else. For starters, the police released that information because it was all public record, and they had to. But I think it raises awareness and makes you feel the whole thing on a human level.
I know that some of the details were hard for me to hear. As I mentioned in the last episode, hearing that he had cut his wrists, superficial cuts, so not intended to, it was cutting.
Yeah.
I myself am a recovering cutter, and that hit me hard. I started cutting when I was a teenager in high school, and as a way of coping, because I was depressed and felt helpless, and that was something I had control over. And cutting is, I think of it as a symptom of depression. It's a coping mechanism. It's not for attention. A lot of people think cutters are just doing it to get attention, and that's not what it is. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I tried to cover it up.
Yeah, most cutters don't display their wounds. It stays covered up.
And the only reason that I got found out, my one of my good friends in high school found out because we were in the lunch line together, and he noticed that I was wearing long sleeves, and we lived in South Texas, and it happened to be a normal South Texas hot day, and he couldn't understand why I was wearing long sleeves. I tried to excuse it. Well, the classroom was cold. Well, but it's hot out here. And he put two and two together. That's the only way I got found out. I tried to make excuses. I tried to cover up. It was not about attention.
Right.
And it took a long time to... I call myself a recovering cutter because that's something I don't know that you can ever be cured of once you start. It's kind of like alcoholism in that way. You're never a cured alcoholic, you're recovering. Because I still do get the urges sometimes. If I have trouble coping with something, if it's still like an alcoholic wants a drink sometimes my coping reaction is to want to do that, and I have to remind myself and keep myself in check. And over the years, I have slipped up and done it again. It's been several years, and I haven't done it recently, and the medication I'm on now helps keep those thoughts at bay, but it's something that you always deal with.
Right.
And it is a symptom, one of the symptoms of a greater depression. So hearing that somebody like Robin Williams also did that hit me really hard.
Sure.
But if you know somebody that you think might be depressed, that can be one of the symptoms that you find. If they are wearing inappropriate clothing for the weather, if you see unexplainable cuts, if you see a change in behavior that is, they're acting differently, too happy or too sad, because a lot of people that are going through depression try to overcompensate and act happier than normal to put on a mask.
Yeah.
So any changes in personality, if you think that someone you know might be suffering from depression, reach out to them.
Absolutely. A lot of times all it takes is that one person to show that they care.
Mm-hmm. It can make
to
all the
pull
difference.
someone back from the edge. Like I said, that's what it took for me. I know that I've been there for you, and it's kept us in each other's lives.
Mm-hmm. Every time that I have been close to that edge, it's been one person that saved me from myself. Whether it was one of my friends or you, it's always been one person that stepped in and made a difference.
Yep. And to your credit, that's largely why you and I stay in touch as much and as close as we do. And you're good to let me know when things are affecting you, because you know that I worry and that I can keep an eye on you when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you've accepted as you've grown up, is that there are people there for you, and as long as you're recognizing the symptoms soon enough, you're getting the help that you need.
And that comes with learning about your illness, like anything
Yep.
else. If you're diabetic, you learn what the signs of low blood sugar are before it gets too low. If you're depressed, I've learned how to recognize symptoms in myself and be self-aware enough that if my meds are starting to falter and they need adjustment, I can recognize that and let people around me know while I'm going through that process again.
Absolutely.
It's about being self-aware and educating yourself and knowing about your disease.
Yep. It's one of the reasons that I live with John, the Peanut Gallery, is I don't do well alone. I don't do well when I'm home alone for long periods of time. I do okay with a week. When he takes his yearly vacation, I do okay. But when I'm here in an apartment by myself, that's when I'm at my worst.
I'm the same way. That's why even if my financial circumstances weren't such, keeping me living with the parents, I've told them already, until I'm ready to start a family of my own and have my own kid, I probably am going to stick around paying rent for my room because I have no desire to live alone.
Right. Living alone sucks. Some people love it. It's not for everyone. It's not for me. It's not for you. But some people really do love living alone. Mm-hmm. And more power to them, but I can't do it. And
no.
I find that companionship, even if I don't take advantage of it every day, the fact that it is there for me is what keeps me grounded.
Well, yeah, even if and sometimes I need alone time and I go to my room, but just knowing they're in the living room is enough.
Yeah, absolutely. They're there if you need them. Mm-hmm. And, John's much the same way for me.
Mm-hmm. And I think that people are finally starting to wake up and see depression for what it is. There is a lot of research out there. You can educate yourself. You can educate others. If you know somebody that's suffering from it, the best thing you can do is be sensitive to it. Don't ever tell them what they're feeling isn't real because they already think that.
Right. You don't necessarily have to validate their fears and their feelings. You just have to be there to listen to them. Acknowledge
that you understand that that's the way they feel.
Right. Whether it's something that you would necessarily agree with or not, you acknowledge that that's what they're feeling. And you help them to see something different, Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's all you can do is pull their focus away onto something else.
And sometimes it will take a toll on the relationship. I know I have a friend that, because of my own depression, I recognize the signs in her and encouraged her very strongly and vocally to get help. And she fought me a lot. Mm-hmm. And it nearly ruined our friendship. But she did finally go to the doctor, and the doctor agreed that she needed medication, and she's been on medication and is doing much better, and since has thanked me many, many, many times for stepping in the way I did, even though at the time it nearly destroyed our friendship.
Right.
And sometimes that's a risk you have to take to try to save someone.
Absolutely. If you yourself are someone who is fighting depression, there are people out there that will listen. Your friends and your family, they love you, and they want to be there for you. You have to let them try.
No matter who you are, there's somebody out there that loves you.
Yeah.
It may not seem like it, but there is.
Absolutely.
And regardless of what you may think, they aren't better off without you.
Right. Now, if you don't want to believe us, you're welcome to your opinion. But you need to talk to someone, do so. Find a guidance counselor if you're in school. Go into the Yellow Pages, find someone to talk to. Even if it's calling your local cable company and just having a chat. I'm convinced that some of my customers, that's exactly why they call. They're just lonely. And I'll have a conversation with just about anybody that calls in, even if they're not really having a problem with their particular issue. It's happened to me a couple of times, and I welcome it. I'm not it's not what I get paid to do, but if you're that lonely and you want to talk, I'll talk to you all day long. I'll whatever I can to keep that one person from going over the edge, I'll help.
And then, of course, there are numbers out there specifically for that. If
Absolutely.
you do need to talk to somebody, there are numbers you can call, including the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which has been all over social media lately and
Right.
is a good number to have. I know when I was a teenager, I called them once.
Yeah.
And
I myself have never called them, but I know people that have, and it's helped them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great service. It's free. It's not something that you'd have to pay for. They're there to listen to you and to help you back away from that edge.
and they are open 24/7.
Yep, absolutely.
So day or night, if you need to talk, they're there. I believe we posted the number on the
Facebook.
JoF Facebook, which and Twitter. But once again, the number is 1-800-273-8255.
They also have a website, and it's located at suicidepreventionlifeline.org. That's .org, not .com. So if you're more tech savvy and want to go online, they have online chat for just about anybody. They also have specialized veterans focus for our veterans of military service. So use them. That's what they're there for. If you need help, get help. Don't convince yourself that you're the only one in the world who understands, because believe me, there's someone else out there who has been through it and will help you through it.
And if you're having these thoughts, try to realize it's the disease talking, and you can fight it. It may not seem like it, and it's not easy, but you can fight it, and there are people to help if you'll let them help you fight.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't always seem like it's worth fighting, but it is.
It always is, yes. Whether it seems like it or not, it's always worth it to fight.
Death is never a good thing. It's sad and it's tragic, but I am glad that this nationwide conversation about depression is happening. I'm glad that the controversial comments are getting made and slammed. I'm glad that it's coming to light what people think of this and the fact that they are misconceptions. I personally, since I've accepted my depression, because I fought it too at first.
Right.
I did not want to get help. Once I accepted it, I've become very vocal about it. I am not embarrassed by what I've done. I'm not proud of it. But I accept now that it's an illness, and I did what I did, and it was what it was. And I'm vocal about it, hoping that it will help somebody else relate to it, and maybe they'll see the signs in themselves and get help.
Yeah.
So I've always been very vocal about it, and I hope that more people are, because I think having conversations about it raises that awareness and lowers the stigma. And the less of a stigma there is, I think the more people will get help. I think people are afraid to get help because they're afraid of being labeled.
Right.
And that's a bad reason to not get help.
I agree.
The stigma needs to go away. It needs to be accepted for what it is. And that is an illness. And I just can't stress that enough, because so many people think that it's just a really bad case of the blues.
Right. And it's so much worse than that. It manifests in so many different ways. Sometimes it's not even always easy to identify that it is what it is.
And I think that's the shocking part about the Robin Williams situation, is you think of depression, you think of someone in a dark room, sad, crying all the time, and that's not the Robin Williams everybody saw. Mm-hmm. You can mask it very easily. People with severe depression can be very good at masking it.
Right.
You don't see it. People that you would never imagine are depressed can have this illness. You just never know. That's why it's so important to treat everyone with respect.
Yeah.
You don't know what might trigger somebody.
Absolutely.
So, once again, if you or someone you know needs help, there is help out there. And even when it seems like you're alone, you're not.
There's always somebody out there that's waiting to help you. All you have to do is ask. And if you know someone that you think may be going through this, all you have to do is offer to help.
And sometimes
I can't stress it enough.
And sometimes simply sitting with them's enough.
Just paying a visit.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. You don't even have to talk about whatever it is that's on their mind.
Sometimes you don't even have to talk.
Right. Sometimes just showing up and being there is enough. You know, I mean, how many times have you and I sat down and just played video games, or you watch me play video games, and that's all it takes for us to reconnect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as the nation continues to mourn and get more information about the Robin Williams case, I believe this nationwide conversation on depression will continue and develop, and I think the dialogue is a good thing. I know it's probably something that we'll touch on again, but I wanted to take this whole episode to really focus in on it and share our stories and what depression really is.
Yeah.
And while we're not doctors or any sort of medical experts, we have firsthand experience of having the illness. And there is research out there by medical doctors, by professionals that have studied it, so you can educate yourself.
Absolutely. And I encourage you to do so. Go educate yourself. Open up, go out to the internet and just do a search on it and just start reading. It's out there. The material is out there. Learn about it. Learn to identify the symptoms.
And several reputable medical sites have information.
Absolutely.
So the information is out there. The help is out there. You just have to get it.
Absolutely.
That's all the time we have for this episode. If you want to message us anything, jackalopesfire.com has all our contact information, Facebook, Twitter, and thank you for watching.